did mention that economy is the top issue for you, and that is also the top issue for many Americans. According to a recent Economist YouGov poll, these are the top issues that Americans feel that are very important to them: inflation and prices, jobs and the economy, and healthcare. What's your pitch to Americans when it comes to these issues?
Well, we're overtaxed, we're overregulated. I would reduce taxes, I would reduce regulation. And regarding healthcare, the reason our healthcare costs are so high is because government's involved. Government pays almost 50% of our healthcare costs. Healthcare is a commodity like anything else. The more competition, the cheaper the price, the better the quality, the greater the accessibility.
And I do not want to go through a little bit of a lightning round, if you will, with me about the issues. Let's jump to international policy and start with China. I've had the opportunity to talk to a few of your contenders, your competitors, and they both said that we are currently in a Cold War with China. Would you agree?
I would agree. China is our number one adversary. They have infiltrated this country like a Trojan horse. They've endowed all these China chairs all over America, college and universities, to, in my opinion, indoctrinate students into not believing that China is the oppressive authoritarian regime that it is. They bought farmland near sensitive military installations. They have police stations all over America. As you know about the hot air balloons that they sent over, they're saber rattling against Taiwan. They're stealing technology. Or making it a requirement that you divulge your technology if you do work in China. And they want to dominate the world economically and if not militarily. They are a huge, huge problem, a huge, huge threat. We ought to be decoupling ourselves from China. We shouldn't be dependent on China for pharmaceuticals as we are, or for military components as we are, or for the stuff that goes into our cell phones, the lithium. It's a huge mistake. It's also a huge mistake on the part of people like Joe Biden to push EVs, because they will make us even more dependent upon China, because the stuff that goes into the batteries, the lithium, the cobalt, the nickel, either mined or produced in China or mined or produced in areas around the world that China controls, like the Republic of the Congo, where you have kids using their bare hands getting this nickel out of the ground. It's adverse to their health. It's toxic. It's also a huge humanitarian crisis. And the notion that EVs on par are better for the environment than gas-powered cars, I reject. When you look at the energy it takes to manufacture the EV, to transport the EV, the shelf life of the battery has to be disposed of some sort of way. You put it in the ground, it leaks toxic materials that threaten our underground water supply. On par, I don't believe an EV is better for the environment than a gasoline-powered car. And so I would stop this incessant push for forcing Americans against their will into buying something that they don't want to buy.
President Biden did call Chinese President Xi Jinping a dictator. One, do you agree with that characterization? And two, under an elder presidency, how would you do what you described as decouple the U.S. from China?
Of course, the Xi Jinping is a dictator, and of course, China is an authoritarian regime. They've got 2 million Uyghurs that they have in concentration camps, and you saw the oppression of Hong Kong. So, of course, they're an authoritarian nation, and he is a dictator. I would do what I said earlier. I would encourage people to manufacture things here. I would talk about the threat that we are increasing by our growing dependence on China. I would unite the countries around China so that there's a united front, so that China knows that if they continue their aggression, there's going to be a consequence. It is true that we get a lot of our components from China. It's also true that China gets a lot of their money from us, from the West. And so the West has to show a united front that China will suffer economically if China continues its aggression.
And how would you resolve or de-thaw a Cold War with China?
I don't know that we can de-thaw a Cold War. I would fight the Cold War. I mean, eventually the Cold War resulted in the collapse of the Soviet Union, and hopefully eventually this Cold War against China will result in the change in government so that they no longer oppress their people and no longer are seeking to rule the world through authoritarian ways. So I don't know how you do anything other than square them off, face them down, let them know that there'll be an economic cost, a la what happened with the Soviet Union.